family. About to get started in a few. All right, family. Glad to be back with you. It's been a couple of weeks since we had a Tuesday night show, so that's kind of wild. We've been having the book club pretty regularly, but this is probably the first Tuesday night show for the new year. Woo, 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 woo. So happy New Year, everybody. I hope everybody's been having a fantastic start to the new year. I hope if you're one of those New Year's resolution type people, you are well on your way to establishing your New Year's resolutions. You know what I'm talking about? So I have pretty much just been working and doing the book club, and I travel for work. So I've been out of town. I was in Wilmington, somewhere else, went a couple places, but I'm here for a little bit, and February is gonna be crazy again because I start moving. I'll be traveling a lot. Tonight we are going to. Last time we had the show, we discussed several things, but one of the things we talked about is seven spaces of this. Well, it wasn't seven then; it was just five at that point. But over the last couple of weeks, life has given me some new perspective, and we've added two more. So we'll discuss the five plus the new two. So the seven spaces of healing. And of course, we're going to do our visualization. It's supposed to be green, so it should look green in here. We are on our heart chakra. So the element for that is air. The color is green. And it's a perfect time because I said 2025 was going to be my year for heart work. And let me tell you something. 2025 has definitely made me forced me to be a man of my word, because it's definitely challenging me to do a little hard work right now. So yeah, we'll start with the bowl. I haven't done the bowl in a minute. I've only done the big one. We've been using the rain stick and everything else, but I feel like I haven't done it. I haven't done this one in weeks, so mm, mm, mm. Listen, I'm not even surprised. I have definitely been communicating a lot of things over this last couple of weeks and learning a lot of different lessons. So I'm curious. I'm gonna check my throat. Mm. All right. I am communicating, family, so I hope you all too taking this time to. I had to reach out to a friend of mine that's an ordained minister, pastor, and one of the things that resonated with me and stays with me from that conversation is this idea of finding your voice. You know what I mean? And in that instance, life has also been presenting an opportunity to find a voice and encourage others to find their voice too. You know, the show is part of that as well. But I hope you are in a comfortable space. I think for our breathing exercise, we are going to do 4, 7, 8. And earlier I thought 2 cycles, so we're going to do that back to back. 4, 7, 8. That means you breathe in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. And you don't have to worry, I'll do the count for you. And we're just going to do 2 cycles back to back. So no pause in between. Get yourself in a comfortable position. Good for anxiety, good for if you're struggling to go to sleep. 4, 7, 8. Breathe in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. All right? On my count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold for 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more time. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold for 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out for 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, the element for your heart is air. And at this time, I think you start to kind of focus in on your breathing. Imagine you feel your lungs fill with air. Imagine you can see your lungs expanding and big heavy releases. And you see your lungs contract. Imagine while you're breathing in, you can feel the winds blowing across your face. Let's give these winds a name. You can feel the winds of change with every blow across your face. You can truly feel that things are going to be different. You are going to take the steps to be the best version of you. And you can feel the wind breathing in. As those winds of change blow across your body, you feel it on your arms, your knees. You even feel the wind blowing between your toes. But as that wind of change is blowing across your body, I want you to inhale the change that you need and exhale the things you need to release. Whatever pops in your mind as you inhale, whether it be love, and exhale fear. I want you to breathe in the change that the winds are bringing in your direction. And as you are thinking, I want you to begin to picture your love, your heart, your passion right there in front of you. And I want you to speak these words of affirmation to the love part of yourself. I love myself and others. I deserve to be loved. I forgive others easily. My heart is fully open, loving, and pure. I follow the voice of my heart. I love myself and others. I deserve to be loved. I forgive others easily. My heart is fully open, loving, and pure. I follow. So I hope you were able to release a couple of things. You know, we're going to switch to the side camera as we start talking about the subject for tonight. And honestly, I got a ton of words. It's a lot. It was very difficult for me to figure out what I wanted to discuss tonight because so many so many opportunities for growth have been presenting themselves over the last couple of weeks. So if you remember, we talked about 5 spaces of healing that you needed to be in, that you wanted to not only place yourself in, but you want to cultivate within yourself. You want to create this within yourself. You want to be a symbol of these things and then place yourself in these spaces as well. So even though we started off with 5, life has given me the opportunity to recognize that there are 2 more spaces that are very important to the healing process. And we are going to add those tonight. So the spaces were what? Solitude. You need a space for solitude. You need a space for healing. You need a space for love. You need a space for accountability. You need a space for risk without judgment. And the 2 new ones are going to be a space for trust and a space for forgiveness. So, space of solitude. Why is creating a space for you to have a solitude important? Because solitude is a tool if used correctly. One thing that solitude can create a space for you is a space to get mental clarity. Because in a space of solitude, you will have limited distractions. And with limited distractions, it allows you to be able to focus your energy on your thoughts or anything you're trying to problem solve. When you're using space of solitude as a tool, also a space of solitude creates a space for you to take time and inventory yourself. We talked about a self-evaluation. You just want to take some time in this space of solitude and review some of the decisions you've made and begin to look at these decisions from both sides of the coin. You want to see the good, the intended consequences, and the bad, the unintended consequences. When solitude is used as a tool, it creates a space and a time for you to do self-inventory. With this space and time, solitude also creates a space for you to be able to plan. As you're figuring out, you have this new mental clarity, you got the space to be able to solve problems and create new things for yourself. It also creates a space for you to be able to plan. Masir, good to see you. You know what? I didn't see that you commented till last on Thursday show until I got ready to end the show. Cause on Thursday I can't see the comments because I'm just reading. On Tuesdays I got a screen right here. I really do probably need to work on that so I can do a better job at seeing the comments, but I ain't see the comments, so my apologies, brother. Sherry, good to see you. You know what's funny, Sherry? They keep saying that you and Pretty Black Girl are number one fans. And I haven't even done much in the last couple of weeks. So I'm still amazed at how you and Pretty Black Girl are still number one fans. But Sherry, good time. Cause we talking about spaces for healing. We're on the solitude. Solitude as a space. Okay. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you. Solitude creates a space for you to recharge. Dealing with the day-to-day life, handling responsibilities, figuring out yourself, trying to be smarter and not make the mistakes that you've done before. That is demanding of a lot of energy, and we don't always recognize that. So when we use solitude as a tool, solitude creates a space for you to be able to recharge yourself spiritually, physically, and emotionally. What do you love most, brother? Oh, it Sherry, it lets you know. I didn't even know that it lets you know. So I guess, well, since it lets you know, I'm gonna start making the post again. So make some people jealous. The other thing solitude does, it allows time for you to reduce stress. You think about it, you're not spending much time in the stressful situations. You separated yourself from the stressful situations. As a matter of fact, because you have removed yourself from the stressful situations, it creates the space for you to do inventory and to plan on how to relieve some of those stressors. So solitude is to be used as a tool, but I caution you, it is only to be used for a space that you sit in for a few minutes. For a few, not necessarily a few minutes. Some people think 40 days, 40 nights, but it is a finite time frame. If you reside in solitude too long, it's easy to slip into isolation. And we don't want isolation. Remember, healing is a communal event. No doubt. I appreciate that. I haven't even done much with it, but I appreciate anything, man. We'll move it up. I tell you, we get a lot of views, but not as many followers. But it's okay, man. We stay consistent. I appreciate you. So anything you can do would be appreciated, brother. You know it. The next space I wanted that we discussed was a space for healing. And specifically, when you think about this space for healing, you want to think about a community, a group of people who share the same ideas, the same energy. They may not be in the same space on their healing process. Community, a community of people that support your healing. So, one of the reasons you want a space for healing is probably one of the most important reasons, and it's because a space for healing is a space for emotional safety. A space for healing allows you the opportunity to be able to practice and sharpen the skill of feeling emotionally safe. It begins to allow you to trust yourself, that you can recognize spaces that are emotionally safe for you. Next, space for healing creates community. Remember, it creates the connection, and connection is the community. A lot of times when you hear me say, we say tribe. I promise you, on this healing process, I've come in contact with people I never ever thought I would meet. And honestly, I never would have met had I not gone on this path. Even from the simple people that I meet at, I listen, somebody told me, I went to a board meeting over the weekend and they spoke to me about, I see you getting into stones. And it's funny because in my old life, I would not have been buying stones. Not that I didn't like stones. I've always been a kid that liked rocks. I used to throw them. I'm fantastic at skipping rocks. I always had a little thing for rocks, but it just wasn't a part of my path. So a space for healing allows a space for connection, and that connections that you make on your path they will become your community, right? Next, a space for healing, as ironic as it is personalized specifically to your healing. You get to cultivate it with imagination and creativity, and the people that you connect with will resonate on the things that you are healing, the places that you are going. Listen, I thought about it one time. I thought, you know what? It's funny you said that because I really have been thinking about um appearing on other people's things. So I'll keep that in mind that you're rooting for me. And if I could appear on something that's gonna let me win money, it's all good. It's personalized to your healing, which is very important. There are certain things in yourself, there are certain traumas, certain experiences that you have gone through that only people who have experienced those things would be able to understand and resonate with you. So a space for healing is personalized to your individual healing, right? Next thing a space for healing does is it reduces your burden. You remove the weight of some of your experiences, whether it be emotions, the memories, anything that you can think of. A space for healing removes the burden, the spiritual burden, the emotional burden, and sometimes the physical burden. Because you really have to remove yourself and place yourself in this space. Next, and very pivotal, is a space for love. You need to put love into the world and place yourself in loving situations. You need to give love to yourself and ensure and make sure those around you are also giving love to you. One of the reasons you want a space for love is as a space for healing gives you a time and a space for emotional safety. A space for love gives you emotional support. People who love you, they validate your feelings. They help you navigate them. They do whatever they feel they can to provide you that emotional support. Other thing it does, a space for love improves your self-esteem. People who feel loved feel better about themselves. They go out into this world with a certain confidence, knowing that someone loves them. especially if you are one of those people that can totally acknowledge that you were created in love. The two people who created you were in love when you were made. You know that you were created in love. People who feel loved, loving yourself improves your self-esteem. Ironically, feeling love, being in a space of love, increases your resilience. Knowing that there are people who love you, you are more likely to go a little harder, push a little further, take that one extra step. Don't take no for an answer. It builds your resilience. A space of healing builds your resilience. And one of the more important things that a space for love gives you is a sense of happiness and fulfillment. Ironically, too many people think that their happiness resides outside of a space for love. But that is one of the main houses that happiness resides, fulfillment resides, is in that container of love. Next space you want to be mindful of and that you want to have is a space for accountability. Now, you need someone to be able to call you on your stuff. You need to be able to be real and honest with yourself and hold yourself accountable. Not justify some of your wrongdoings. Hold yourself accountable, offer apologies, or use that accountability to build your integrity to not do these things, right? So a space for accountability creates personal responsibility. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself. You need to hold yourself accountable to that. The next thing that accountability, space for accountability does, it builds your consistency and your commitment. When you hold yourself accountable to the goals that you made, you are consistent in trying to achieve those goals. You value and prioritize the commitments that you made. Whether you are accountable to your family, whether you hold yourself accountable to your job, whether you hold yourself accountable to your dreams, or some combination of all of these things. Accountability builds your consistency and your commitment. People want to know how they get consistent with those new routines, as I talked about. If you are one of those New Year's resolution type people, how you get these routines set in stone is put yourself in a space of accountability. Hold yourself accountable. The next thing that a space of accountability does, and it's ironic because a lot of people, when they are in a space of accountability, they tend to leave it and go into a space of solitude. But a space of accountability reduces isolation. That means you have to rely on that community that you build in your space of healing to hold you accountable. You got to have conversations. You have to be open and vulnerable enough to be truthful about what you're thinking, what you're doing, what you're saying. You have to use the tribe that you're building around you, or recognize the people that come across your path that can provide you some accountability on what you're doing. It reduces isolation because others are aware and invested in you, in your success. That is the purpose of an accountability partner. You're seen and invested in. Someone else is aware of what you're trying to do, and they are invested in your success. It reduces isolation. Next, a space for risk, specifically without judgment. And accountability and judgment are not the same thing. But you need a space for risk without judgment. What does a space for risk do for you? Taking risk enhances your personal growth. Sometimes you're going to fail, what you learn and grow. Sometimes you're going to succeed, what you learn and grow. But after every risk, you are no longer the same person. You have personally grown. So a space for risk, allowing yourself to take risk without being harsh on yourself, without judging yourself harshly, without worrying about what others might say or how harshly they might judge you. Remember, you're cultivating this space too. So you're making sure that the space is without judgment. Taking risk enhances your creativity. Because you try something, you go back to the drawing board, you try something again, you go back to the drawing board, or you scrap it and try something totally different. Risk keeps you using your imagination, sharpening the skills of creativity. Risk allows you to produce abstract creations. Risk allows you to produce tangible products. But in both forms, taking risk builds your creativity. Taking risk improves your problem-solving ability. Some of us are stuck in the same place because we are afraid to take risk. And those experiences is what makes us grow and gives us tools to solve future problems or even help others solve problems. So a space for risk, thinking of new ways to address things, thinking of to address the mistakes or how to make them better. All of those things are problem-solving skills that risk improve. Next, risk has a potential to improve your self-esteem. Ironically, several of these spaces will directly connect to how you view yourself. It improves your self-esteem, especially when you're successful at something that you took a chance on. That success makes you feel better about yourself and makes you a little more likely to take risk and chances again. Calculated because the risk already gave you enhanced problem solving skills. Sherry, you know what's funny? I keep saying I don't want to write a book, but I think by happenstance, I am writing a book because all this stuff that we talking about, I keep. And I was thinking today, especially ironic that you say that. The other thing I'm gonna start doing is more videos of me just talking, telling people this stuff so they don't always have to watch the show. And one of the things I'm gonna do is definitely these seven spaces of healing, because I do think it's very important. And thank you, Sherry. I'm glad that something it resonates with you, but you part of the soul family because you are the tribe. You what's that space? You help to create my space of healing. You are my community, so thank you. Okay, so now the two new ones. Man, we'll talk later on how I came to adding these two outside of life, just giving me experiences. But the next one is the first new one, number 6, is a space for trust. And that's trust in yourself and trust in others. It's funny because I've been talking about this word trust that's came up a bunch. And the way it has came up is when you're a kid, one of the first things they tell you is don't trust strangers. And if you take enough risk in life, you know that is not true. Sometimes strangers do things for you that you can't even get from the people you love. So, a space for trust. You have to become trusting. You have to be trusting. You have to be a symbol of trust. And place yourself in a space where people trust themselves and trust you. Right? So, what does a space of trust do for us? It gives us a space of emotional safety, which is important. Think about the people that you trust. That you trust a little bit, that you trust a lot. But think about how you feel emotionally. Do you feel free to show all of the emotions you feel? Do you feel free to share all of the emotions you feel? Trusting builds your emotional safety. You have to practice. And part of that self-evaluation or that self-realization, that self-inventory that we do in that space of solitude is reviewing some of our relationships with these words. And trust is a very big one, because trust is one that people feel that you need to earn. When it's just like love, it should be given. And you have to think about your ideas on why. What is the root of why you think trust is to be earned? And then ask yourself, is that based on fear or faith, right? So, trust reduces anxiety. Think about when you're in the company of people that you trust, or when you trust yourself, you worry a lot less. Like, I think about those people who always worried about someone trying to take advantage of them. There's some very antsy, listen, my friend called it squirrely. There's some very squirrely people. They have a very antsy energy, right? But then when you are around those that you do trust, your anxiety, you don't worry. It's a certain level of freedom that you feel by trusting yourself and being in the company of people who trust, right? It gives you reduced anxiety. When you know you're going to be in that space, you don't even worry. You know it's going to be good for your heart, right? Trust has a fantastic ability of strengthening relationships. Trust literally fosters relationships. And that's one of the reasons why it should be given. It literally is one of the main tools to create connection. Trust fosters relationships. Think about the people that you trust and how much better the relationship is or has gotten as the trust has grown through experiences, through conversation. Trust fosters relationship. Moving into a space of trust is very beneficial, and it's going to be helpful to create all these other spaces, especially connection and community. Trust encourages vulnerability. So, think about how vulnerable you allow yourself to be in the presence or in the space of trust with those you trust. I had a serious situation, and the first thing that popped in my mind, and it's kind of part of our later conversations too, is a question that Liberty, who's normally on the show, also asked me about feeling safe. And I'm working on this idea and answering that question on feeling safe. And really where it stems from is this idea of trust. Trusting people encourages vulnerability. So when I ran into this event that was very difficult, I was forced to think about, who do I trust? And that's when I called my friend that's a pastor, Miss Nikki. And it's funny, one of the reasons I trust her is because by accident, oh my God, because if I'd have been in my right mind, this day would have she never would have seen this. But she seen me cry and made me feel okay for crying in front of her afterwards. Listen, I had got this job. I promise you, I probably had the job like 3 weeks. And on Valentine's Day, I remember we were having a party, families, parents, everybody in the school. And the pipes broke and we had a flood. Had to close school down for a while. I had some people come through and fix the pipes. First day back, first day those kids, listen, first hand wash, pipes broke again. I was so furious because I know how much money, how much time. It was just a bunch of work that I did, and I was so angry. I was one of those kids that when they got mad, they cried, especially if I couldn't fight you. So, trust encourages vulnerability, and I was forced to not ask, do I trust this person? I was forced to just give trust, and it encouraged vulnerability, and she rewarded me with emotional support, right? Trust enhances your healing. You are going to meet new people. They're going to have new information to give you. And you have to be in a trust space to be able to make these connections. Half of the things that I've learned is because I have moved into a space of trust and someone at least pointed me in the direction, which has only enhanced my healing. I'm a better person because I give trust freely, right? It enhances my healing. And most importantly, it is key to the healing spaces I create for those that allow me to help them heal. It is key to therapeutic spaces. A space for trust. People have to trust that I won't take advantage, that I won't do any of the the negative possibilities that can happen. So I have to trust myself. I have to be in a space of trust. And it's funny because what shows this is when people used to ask me, don't you have a problem? Aren't you worried about strangers coming to your place? And I always kind of giggle at that because it's funny because I used to have that as a worry. So I know what that feels like. But I also know the freedom of living in a space of trust. And I don't even worry about that. No one's even going to vibrate on my energy that would want to do something negative. I live in a space of trust. People want to be seen. Next, the next one, man, listen. It's funny because in the affirmations for our heart, we talked about forgiveness. So the seventh and final space is a space for forgiveness. You have to be able to exercise the ability to forgive yourself and others. One thing forgiveness does for you is give you emotional release. You're no longer holding on to the things that cause you stress. You no longer are worried about that. So that emotional relief is that sense of freedom I keep on saying. You understand. You make mistakes. You offer forgiveness to others in the hope that they give you forgiveness in return. But it relieves emotional relief, especially if the emotions that you need to let go are resentment and anger. Those are two emotions that can eat you up from the inside, and they do every day, right? Forgiveness reduces stress and anxiety. We just said it takes off the burden because you're no longer holding on to those things that actually put the weight on your shoulders. And of all the spaces that we discussed, forgiveness probably has one of the biggest benefits, and that is better physical health. Being in a space of forgiveness, forgiving others, connecting with people who forgive you when you make mistakes, not being so hard on yourself, giving grace, receiving grace. It lowers your blood pressure, literally. Forgiving people, forgiving yourself, forgiving experiences lowers your blood pressure. It improves your sleep. Now you at least got 3 less thoughts to run through your head as you're trying to go to sleep, right? And it reduces the risk of heart disease. Forgiving people, forgiving yourself, being in a space of forgiveness reduces your risk for heart disease. Holding on to everything is bad for your heart. And forgiveness, like several of the others, boosts your self-esteem because now you're no longer fixated on those past negative events that you've allowed to take too much power in your life. And now you shape your future around those past events. And more importantly, while you're no longer focused on these negative events, guess what? Now you have the available energy to, focus on yourself. Personal growth. Being better, doing nothing, reading a book, eating a salad, eating another cheeseburger, doing something like, what's that? Treat yourself, don't cheat yourself. So forgiveness puts you in a space to be able to focus on self-growth because you're not thinking about what went wrong. So family, those are the 7 spaces. Again, space for solitude, space for healing, space for love, space for accountability, space for risk without judgment, space for trust in self and others, and a space for forgiveness. Cultivate these spaces within yourself and make sure that you're good to yourself by placing you in spaces that give you this energy, right? So now some of the new things that I've been learning, and some of them are exactly why we have a space for trust and a space for forgiveness. So why are these 2 things the new ones? Honestly, one, trust came because I started asking people, do they trust me? And the responses were interesting, to say the least. For the most part, one person started this because they wanted to come to me for healing, and they outwardly told me that they don't trust it because of our relationships, our previous connections, or anything like that. And that made me start thinking, do people trust you? Because people compartmentalize trust very interestingly, which is what I found out when I started asking people to trust me. And ultimately, trust was not treated like a blanket. It is like, I trust you for this, but I don't trust you for that. Which was interesting to me because some of the people I asked, I trust them for that. So it was interesting. And they provided a mirror to myself because I had to think about my ideas of feeling safe. And the root of my ideas of feeling safe, specifically with the feminine energy or with women, stem from my relationship with trust and how I thought about trust and if I even thought that the energy was trustworthy. So ultimately, trust is the result of me asking people, do you trust me? That's that community, that's that accountability, that's the example that I'm talking about. When you have people that are invested in your success, they will honestly answer the questions, especially if you are moving in these 7 spaces, or at least trying to, because there's no exact science to this at all. We can go on in the next couple of months and think about 5 more spaces, but that'll be later. You know what I mean? But it really is asking people to, if they trust me, held a mirror up to me for me to be able to reevaluate my relationship and my ideas of trust. You know what I mean? And I totally understand the idea of trust is to be earned, because I used to think like that as well. So I understand all the things that would make you think that. And what I also recognize, none of those things are based on anything positive. Not one. None of them are based on success. Only based on failure. And I refuse to be shaping my life around failure. That does not make sense. How do you achieve success if you designed your life based on failure? Crazy. The other thing that where forgiveness came from is really, we talked about it several weeks ago, is the relationship when I asked my mom to forgive my sister-in-law. And I think we've talked to, that was last year at this point. My mom really ain't messed with me since then too. But it really does have me, it allows me to reevaluate my relationship with forgiveness. And I understand that even with the best intentions, I can still make mistakes that will need some sort of forgiveness of myself and others, right? And I do have a very good talent of turning tragedy into comedy. So we can laugh about these things, but we have to recognize our relationship with this idea of forgiveness and seeing if we give enough forgiveness, and recognizing, more importantly, if we are receiving enough forgiveness. And that's where my growth resided. I'm one of those people to make sure I'm putting it out there. I'm giving. But when that mirror held up in my face, I really had to start thinking about, am I receiving? So I recognized in one of the friendships with the trust thing, it was not a space for forgiveness. Because for this person, many of the mistakes that they've made, I've forgiven them for, because they're human. I trust them and I consider them my friend. But I recognized that same forgiveness was not given back to me. And I know that going forward, I'm going to make more mistakes. It's only natural to make mistakes. And I need to make sure that I'm able to forgive myself, and also make sure that those around are forgiving of me when I make those mistakes. And that relationship with my mom, man, boop, 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 boop. So, um, another thing that I've learned about healing is that it does come with collateral damage. You can have the best intentions. Your healing can be wonderful, a wonderful thing for you. Remember, it's personalized. It's only for you. And there is collateral damage. So it's funny, I'll tell you the story. Yeah, it's kind of funny on this collateral damage because where it comes from. So from the New Year's, hey, pretty black girl, glad you can join us. You might know this anyway. So for New Year's, I get a okay. So one of the things that I like to, well, I ask of you all is to be able to trust me and be vulnerable. And I was on the fence on how I wanted to discuss this or talk about this, but I have to be the symbol and help to create the spaces that I want to be in. And being able to be vulnerable and honest is something that I ask of people. So I have to also give that. And it's funny. So this idea of collateral damage is I'm learning this within my family. So for New Year's Eve, the gift that we got from our mother was essentially saying that she doesn't want to be our mom anymore. Which is a very interesting place, right? So the main reason why we're here is because of my well-intended question. I had good intentions. I want to move the family to a space of forgiveness. I want to try to cultivate this space within my family. And for the family to heal, 7 spaces for healing. You need to be in a space of forgiveness. Because the one thing about family, they are people. And people gonna make mistakes. So you can carry the burden of holding their mistakes against them, or you can be in a space of forgiveness. And that sounds great because that was my intentions. And what I've learned, that healing thing is so personalized to you. Just because you want to does not mean that everyone else, one, has that ability or even wants to move to a space of forgiveness. And if you try to move people into a space where they're not ready for, they fight back with anger. So, my mom was not ready to move into a space of forgiveness. She has never been ready. And because I tried to move her into a space that she was not ready for, she has decided that my brother and myself are the most disrespectful people she's ever met, and she can't be our mom anymore. And when she did that, because she told my brother, not me, because y'all know I can be a little loose at the mouth. But when she did, when my brother told me, it was like, psh, glass broke. And I felt guilty because it was my fault. My brother didn't do anything. He didn't say anything. He didn't ask anything. He didn't do anything. My brother's a solid person. He didn't do anything. As a matter of fact, the only thing my brother did was give what was asked. Right. And I felt bad because now me wanting to move into a space that she wasn't ready, I also fractured the relationship that her and my brother had. Right. And for me, it was a little easier to be able to do it because our relationship was flat. She hadn't talked to me within the whole year. And my brother was also able to give me a little sense of validation because he said, I see how she treats you differently. And I said, thank you, brother. So I know I ain't crazy. That's that space. The emotional safety, the emotional support, the people, that space of accountability. They are invested. So they'll tell you when you're right and when you're wrong. That's the benefit of the space of accountability, right? It tells you both. And it was wild because it is amazing to me. And I never even had foresight to even think that so good can also come with collateral damage. But again, that's because the healing process is personalized to you, right? One of the reasons I'm able to share pieces of that story, even tell you that story like that, is, like I said, I want to be vulnerable, honest, and open to help create that space of healing, the 7 spaces of healing. But I say this, in this adversity, I've learned a lot of new things. One, it was an experience I never thought I would experience. Well, scratch. One of the more difficult things to deal with in this process, and I think one of the things that shocks everyone, is that essentially me and my brother both are good guys. And my OG said it. He was like, man, y'all did everything right. We did. And I told my brother one of the reasons why I'm not as shocked by this process is because I recognize I'm on my to prevent this from happening. And it taught us both valuable lessons. And one, it showed me that I was not living for myself. Right. Which is very, very interesting. But with this, I recognize opportunities. And one of the opportunities is to assess myself. And that was the hardest thing to recognize, that I was not living my own dreams. I was living a fear. Right. It also allows me to recognize my growth. And how I recognize how much I've grown is I just keep asking myself, why am I not more stressed? And the main reason is I now have tools that I didn't have before. Y'all remember last year, this time, was it last year? My hair was falling out my head. I had alopecia because of stress. And now I'm dealing with stressful situations. And I'm like, orderly. Life is good. So, and that is only because the work I've done to create those 7 spaces for myself. Right. And that's a beautiful thing. So within this, it gives me the opportunity to recognize my own individual growth. That's the mirror work. Hold the mirror up to yourself and see if you're the same person. Because I bet you what, I would never allow myself to be so stressed by someone else's drama that I'd be losing my hair. Never. Never. Also, it allows me the opportunity to get to the root of why I generally don't feel emotionally safe with women. And the wild thing is, as smart as I am, as much as I know about human behavior, I was not willing to accept that my issue with safetyness really does stem from my relationship with my mom. And that is recognizing that, and it wasn't just her, I've seen it in our family. I come from a family that has the tendency to use love as a weapon and not a tool. They will use their love to stab you. They will use their love as justification to commit all types of atrocities. Like, tell your kids you no longer want to be their their mom. So it lets me get to the true issue. And it gives me a freedom that now I can live for myself. I can cultivate the relationships. I'm a different person. I trust myself differently. I can cultivate healthier relationships without the fear of the love being taken away. Right? And that's a great thing. Most importantly, it really has been providing me an opportunity to expand my idea. You know what? Scratch. The other thing I want to say before I expand my ideas is it was a great conversation in our men's group. And they helped me recognize one of the main tools that I'm using at this point that keeps me from being stressed. And it's funny because I said it to the clients on my last session. It's because may the bridges I burn light my way. I recognize that things sometimes they have to be torn all the way down because the foundation was not good. Has to be torn all the way down so it can be rebuilt up and stronger. I mean, nature will burn down a forest, and after a while, you see a whole new set of life develop there. Farmers will burn their old crops to re-nourish the soil. So some of these relationships that are so important to me are going to have to be burnt to the ground because the foundation was not built on what it should have been. And I'm okay with that because the new foundation is built on one of mutual respect, love. It's not a love without boundaries. And I'm okay with that. And the feminine energy, feminine ideas. And it's funny because in our men's group, right? And generally I place that idea, that word hope, in a feminine energy, right? And it's funny because when I said, I used to always think that hope is for suckers. You hold on to hope, it will have you messed up in the game. That was my idea of hope. But hope is also a tool. As a matter of fact, what we're doing now, hope is one of the things that support faith. Hope has actions. Hope is alive. It may be a feminine energy, but it's an energy that I need in my life. And I need to cultivate a better relationship with it. So I have to think about some of these things that I've placed in feminine categories and reevaluate my relationships with them. And that includes women. So these are the opportunities that were presented to me over the last couple of weeks as I work on learning those last two spaces of, was it love and forgiveness? I mean, trust and forgiveness. Well, valuable lessons and valuable opportunities. Hey, Toddy, I didn't know you was doing. I probably should have looked, but I wasn't paying attention, so forgive me. And I just went over tonight because I ain't been on for a couple of weeks. Toddy, you supposed to tap the screen. I'm supposed to have like 2,000 likes on TikTok, especially if Liberty ain't there. You failing on your job. Sherry, you see, she doing a bad job. We're gonna have to fire Toddy out of our thruple. But yeah, so those are opportunities. And one of the reasons I talked about those opportunities is to let you know that even in this crisis, it's presenting an opportunity for you. You just have to be open and aware enough to recognize what is the universe also trying to teach you. It ain't just trying to tell you something, but it's trying to teach you something about yourself, about how you interact with the energy and your actual and true capabilities, what you can and can't do, right? So I hope there's something else I want to talk about, but since we were talking, before I wrap it up, it is probably, never mind. You know what? So, in having a conversation with my brother, we wound up talking about, because my brother is in education too. We started talking about family dynamics and specifically the relationship. The role that kids play in family dynamics. But more importantly, the relationship between parent and kid has responsibility, right? So I told my brother I recognize families, parents split into two big categories, right? Those who wanted kids, they planned for it, they knew they wanted kids, like they were born, they knew they wanted kids. And then there's those that had children by happenstance. Like life happened. You know what I mean? They weren't really thinking about having no kids. It wasn't on their radar. It happened. Right. And then when you think about the families that only just the families that kids happen to them by happenstance, they split into two. So it winds up being the parents who are like, wow, I know I ain't playing for these kids, but I'm about to give them everything I can and all, you know what I mean? And then it's those who begin to treat children like accessories. And the funny thing about it is, because I told them the easiest way you see those people is because a lot of times they show it with their pet. It's the ones that dress their pet like little people. They're treating that pet like an accessory, not like it's something to be loved and cared for. Now, they may do both. Now, there's a lot of possibility for blurred lines with that, but you recognize that that pet's an accessory. But you also see this with parents. And you see it with the parents that try to make their children be many versions of them, or many versions of what they like, or many versions of adults, instead of allowing them to be children, right? And what I've learned about those families, those parents that see children as accessories, is it's a little easier for them to separate from the accessory, right? So how you can really tell the difference between these families, because you think about the people who had kids, wanted kids, blah, 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 so forth like that. They stand by their kid through thick and thin. You get those parents that kids happen by happenstance and they decide that they're going to be everything for that kid. They stick by that kid through thick and thin. I mean, through thick and thin. I mean, even rehab, whatever. They beside that kid through thick and thin. There is nothing. They recognize they have a duty, not a job, but a duty to these children that they brought into this world. Right? And then the other ones you recognize because they always kind of, either not always, but there always comes a point where they can separate from their children. And a lot of those people who treat kids as accessories, they also had kids to fill a void within themselves. And you recognize that. I recognize that there are a lot of people who had children to fill the void within themselves. Those children are emotionally responsible for those parents. Right. And I say all this because one of the more difficult questions that I'm left with now is, was I an accessory? But I deal with it okay because I know that answer. All right, so we're into, as a matter of fact, when the show was getting ready to start, something popped in my mind. To do is how to spaces and how to create spaces within ourselves, and I gotta get back on my. I've been slacking on my Duolingo period, man. And it's funny because my best friend keeps invite me to be a part of her plan, her family plan, so I get unlimited stuff. But I'm gonna take some time since I'm chilling. I mean, since I'm still not chilling because I always got something to do. But since I'm still until the I don't know sometime in February. I got a couple weeks. So it's still January. Um. Okay. Thanks for letting me know. Because I normally don't get the notification like I should. And when I cut it off, it'll show me that something was going crazy. But thanks, Monsieur. I'll look at Twitch. But I think next week we'll take some time to start figuring out how to recognize these spaces and cultivate these spaces within ourselves and others. So I hope you have had a great day. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I hope to see you Thursday when we continue reading the Celestine prophecies, because we are on a part that I think is very important. We are learning all about control mechanisms, and it's funny. But I hope to see you Thursday. If not, okay, thank you, brother. Okay, so it was mine. All right. I think it's this camera. Cause when I cut it off, it'll tell me on the camera, so I gotta get a new cord for the camera. So I'll work on that. Cause they keep on saying it might be your cord, but I'll work on that. Thank you, brother. Hope to see you Thursday. If not, hope to see you next Tuesday, where we'll go into how to recognize these spaces and how to cultivate them. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Have a great rest of your evening, family.
Everything that you need, and everything that your lips need. Watching the sun over the shore, feeling these butterflies. I want you more. All of the fears, wash them away. And put your lips against mine. Close your eyes and just stay. Last night in the sand, I wanna be your man. Just give me the sign, and I'll make it right. I wanna do what you want me to do. Just give me the sign, and I'll make it right. I wanna do what you want me to do. Just give me the sign, and I'll make it right. Kissing away, kissing away. Oh yeah, kissing away, kissing away. I'm kissing on you all night. Yeah, when you kiss me, kiss me. A fire in the sky ignites. Wish this love could last forever.